What's up, my dudes? Welcome to the next episode of my CT Specialist series. Today we're taking a look on how I personally approach Rust on CT side as an IGL. This is obviously not the only way to play the map, but regarding tactical game theory, it is the best way I can think of. I'll talk about the macro and micromanagement of the map, how it is generally played, what I like my team to set up like in certain situations, and small details that might help you win rounds. A quick warning beforehand, this might become a quite long video again, with me just jumping around the map and talking a lot, so it might not be too enjoyable to watch, and only stick around if you really want to learn something. I'll try to structure it as much as I can, but since there are so many different things I need to mention, this might be a bit disordered. I will leave timestamps in the description, so if you want to watch the whole video you can just fast forward to any of the topics, and at the end I will also do a summary of everything I discussed before. Hope this helps. Enjoy! So before we talk about anything else, I quickly need to show you my callout so you guys know what the heck I'm talking about. This is A short, this here is Z. This is the A side obviously, this is the electrical box, but doesn't matter too much. This is apartments, or apps, if you want to call it by its short form. I'm gonna call it apps. This is factory, or this area. This is the door room, and these are the A doors. This is hut. This here is the bottom of mid. This is sniper with left side and right side. This is the upper mid here. This area is what I call drop room because people always drop down here and jump up. This is warehouse, and this curved thing you could call it banana, but I'm gonna call it B long. This here is B short, B side with the back of B side here. This is hell, and above hell there's heaven, and I call this whole structure heaven. This is the container. This is the B connector. And this here is square. In general, Rust is a very fast map early game. If your opponents rush one side very quickly, you need to be set up very early or you will be pushed out of the bomb site immediately. If you don't create the space that your team needs very early, you will have a hard time doing that afterwards. That means that you generally have to be very proactive and fight for the control of certain areas early in the round. Rust is a very A-side based map, especially if you watch tier 1 scrims. You will notice that in the majority of rounds the terrorists will pressure the A side. This is mainly because the B side is very scary to attack, since decent CT nades and crossfires can easily shut down pushes on B long here, and going through B con is even scarier for the Ts. Attacking A is generally less risky for the Ts. So since the map is so A based, I like to put my team in a 3-1-1 setup. 3 on A, 1 on mid, and 1 towards B. This setup is meant to pressure A quite hard and play B rather passively. It has to be changed up, however, if your opponents figure out that your B defense is a bit weak compared to your A defense. If your enemies seem to hit B a lot too, you will need to switch your setup up to some kind of 2-1-2. 2 on A, 1 on mid, 2 on B. In between, in order to be unpredictable, meaning you rotate one person off A and let him play on B. Also, if you're solo queuing, you should play a 2-1-2 setup, just because if the Ts rush B, your team's communication will not be fast enough to support a single B player in time before he loses the bomb site. Now, when talking about the A side, let's talk about the tasks and positioning of the A players first. Especially in a 3-1-1 setup, the 3 A players have one job early round: creating space for their team. As an A player, do not sit in the back of the side, Z and A short, from the beginning of the round. If your opponents push A early and know their basic smokes that land here on A short and here on Z, You will have a hard time denying the bomb plant if you leave your opponents that much space. If you play very passively the whole time, spraying and nading through smokes will be your only options. Instead, if you push early, the enemies will struggle to isolate the bomb site effectively and without casualties. Especially if you have 3 A players, try to push a bit. You can have one guy who jumps up apps and peeks in apps with a support flash. I'll show off that support flash in a minute. If he can't push in further, support him so that he can stay up here for a bit longer, because having someone who can peek apps at any time will put a lot of pressure on the T's, and he can also get some info on what's going on up here. If the apps player stays up here though, he's exposed to door room, and a teammate needs to make sure that the apps player can't be peeked for free if he stays up there. As a doors player, you can either hold this angle, smoke it off, or even push through a bit without dying, just to pressure further. Only use your smoke if you can't hold the angle anymore though. Save it as long as possible. If you get pushed hard, then the apps player will have to jump down eventually, and your door player will have to fall back. In that case, you can switch up angles. Your apps player can hold doors like this, and your doors player can hold apps somewhat like this. This is also a setup that I would recommend if you don't like to push apps or door room and want to play a little bit more passively. Obviously, you can also change it up. The doors player can still make sure that no one comes outdoors here, and the apps player can hold it like this, but the other option might be a bit less predictable for the enemies. Now the third A player, if you have one, can either push with the other players early round or support them by holding their weak angles. Especially if the others have to fall back even further, to the back of side, through Z or to A short. Someone who can watch apps for them, or doors, and throw smokes and flashes to assist their retreat is extremely important. He should only stay further back though if they need him to. If they push further and manage to gain map control, he has to be with them. If you as A players push early and don't see any enemy presence up here in factory or in apps, they are very likely to rush B. Make sure that one player gets full apps and factory control. Maybe make sure he gets here up to sniper and can peek T-spawn or something, and then make sure he holds mid control, and then you can rotate every other A player off towards B. With only 2 players on A, you obviously have to play a bit more passively, but not giving up off the side and playing too passively is still a good idea. One more thing, you can use boosts on the electrical box, for example, up here. You can theoretically jump up here, but the parkour is a bit shit. Or a boost on A short up here. This is a 3-man boost, so 1 man boosts 2 others up here, and they can stay up here and peek doors or apps. You can also boost someone here to peek apps, but they are very situational, so you should maybe rarely use them. Now let's quickly talk about the utility you need to know as an A player, and I will use my flash as well as my grenade to pretend they're both flashbangs. The first flash is a self flash into apps, so you can just aim down at the ground, make the flash bounce through apps, and then peek off of it. This is a self flash for the apps player. A support flash for the apps player, so the apps player stands up here already and he's ready to jump over and peek through, or he is standing on this catwalk already, is a flash just thrown like this, aim at the door, jump throw, and it goes through, and then right after that flash the apps player can peek out. A very good A side retake flash that I found is one that an A player as well as the mid player can throw. You stand here in front of this door, you aim towards this edge and then up till you hit the chimneys, and then you jump throw it. And this flash will land up here in the air, and it will blind anyone peeking from apps, peeking from back of the container or planting here, or peeking from doors. If you have a player in Z, he can call for that flash and peek out with it, though watch out because this flash is landing up here, he might get blinded too if he doesn't look away like this. If he does look away like this, the flash lands and then he can just peek out immediately. There's also one flash into door room that you can just perform by sitting in this corner and throw against this dot. The flash will land here in the middle and he will blind anyone watching from here or from up here. Generally, as A players, make sure you don't throw away your HE grenades too early. They can be very strong for denying a bomb plant in general, especially on this side here, where the nades are likelier to hit, or in general to slow down pushes by throwing them into apps or into doors. Smoking off apps or doors can be really impactful and can really slow down pushes. You can obviously very easily throw them from in the bomb site, but even if you get pushed all the way back here, you still have to be able to throw those smokes in order to buy time for your teammates to come over. The first smoke is the door smoke, and you can just tuck into this corner and somewhat aim at this square, normally throw. The smoke is gonna smoke off doors and make everyone trying to peek out have a hard time. The app smoke is performed like this. You stand on this corner, make sure the rest of the wall is not visible to you anymore, and then you aim up to this corner and a bit upwards, and then normally throw. This is gonna smoke off apps and make it very difficult to peek from there. Now let's talk about the solo mid player and his tasks and positioning first. The mid player is very important for 3 reasons. Firstly, you have to make sure that you can protect every player that rotates from one side to another, from A to B or from B to A. There are 2 ways to rotate between bomb sites for the CTs, B-Con here and also through B-Heaven at the back here. But B-Con is mostly much quicker. However, a B-Con play can very easily be killed by terrorists peeking through mid doors from sniper nest up there, or generally just holding an angle from mid like this. So your job as a mid player is to make sure that doesn't happen to your teammates. Secondly, you have to be aware of what is actually going on the bottom of mid, this area here. Terrorist rotations from one bomb site to another are very long if they go all the way through T-spawn. Like, if they want to rotate from here to B, they have to go all the way through T-spawn and through B lane and warehouse towards B. So the much quicker options for your enemies is from drop room to hut and vice versa. If they rotate like this, they will always make noise because they have to drop down on one side and have to jump up on the other side. A little side tip that I just found is that you can actually prevent making noise when dropping from down here. So like this, I'm making noise. But if you listen, if I go against the wall and slowly fall down like this, I don't make any noise. But I didn't know that before, so most other players won't know that either and just expect them to make noise when they drop down. Your job as a mid player is to listen for what they are doing on mid and communicate to your team to initiate necessary rotations in time. So if they drop down here and jump up there, it might be possible that they want to push the B side, so you might rotate a player off to B. And thirdly, you obviously have to make sure that your A and B players can't just get flanked through square, so you have to be able to control this door, control whoever is coming through, and make sure that no one can just pass in this direction or backfire your A players. So, how do you play as a mid player? You don't try to take full mid control. That is basically impossible for you solo, since you have at least 3 angles, sniper, left side and the right side, as well as upper mid here, that you can never control from the bottom of mid from this area, and that you also can't smoke off. So you will always be open to those angles if you push through mid very aggressively. Also, pushing to drop room early round is too risky because you might get boxed in from warehouse, so if people are coming down here to warehouse, and from mid. So if terrorists have mid control and come down here and there's people coming from the other side, you're boxed in, they will mostly know that you're here because you made noise to come up here, and they will just hunt you down and kill you. Instead, you should mostly play close behind mid doors and try to see and hear what's going on. If your team has long-range weapons like M16s or an AWP, make sure you have one of those, since you are playing the longest angles on the map. Nobody plays angles that are as long as this. Early round you can spam sniper list someone like this to get some info through possible hit markers and also to get some free damage onto the enemy players. Always tell your team if you get hit markers. If you do this every round, the Ts will often have to slow down an A push to wait for your shots, which will give your players on A some more time to create space on the A side and push through a bit. You can also ask a teammate for a boost next to the doors, over here and over here, or on the electrical box up here, if you feel confident that you can take an early fight. Don't do this every round though. If you get a kill from being boosted up here, next round they're most likely gonna pre-fire you. Further into the round you can jump spot to get a lot of info on mid without a high risk of dying immediately. Make the Ts aware of your presence and show that they can't just peek through mid doors or rotate through mid for free. To switch things up or to support your B player, you can also play further back and B con here. To hold the angle, your teammates will have to rotate through this one. However, it is easy to push you away from that angle, for example by smoking you off here, or just holding this angle back from mid. So make sure that another teammate towards A can potentially help you with controlling mid doors. You can also support your players on A and B by throwing some utility or peeking long angles from short. But don't forget your responsibilities on mid. Especially if your teammates do have to rotate from one bomb site to the other, play a bit more confrontationally. Pre-fire angles or even smoke off mid doors so your teammates can rotate much easier. But very importantly, don't overcommit to fights. You are extremely important for your team because of the reasons I talked about earlier. If an enemy wants to offer you a 50-50 fight mid-round, meaning he peeks you, let's say from upper mid, and you know he peeks from there and he knows you're gonna peek like this, and it just comes down to aim, this is a fight you should probably not take. Because if you die, your teammates' rotations will be much harder and the Ts will have full mid control for some moments, meaning they also have space to rotate themselves here on bottom mid, while your team has much less info. Only take fights if you need to cover your rotating teammates. If you peek offensive mid angles, make sure you peek them one by one. That should look somewhat like this. So now coming to the utility for the mid player, the most important bit of utility might be the mid door smoke. This smoke can be really impactful if he wants to support his teammates on A or B, so remember to buy a smoke as a mid player. You can also throw a flash over doors to assist your peek, but watch out, you will get flashed through the roof if you don't look away. That would look somewhat like this. Make sure that doesn't happen by turning around, avoiding that flash and then peeking out. As a mid player you can also throw the supportive A flash that I showed earlier, standing in front here and aiming like this, jumping and jump throwing. And you can also support your teammate on B. You can throw a flashbang like this, you stand against this tiny wall here and look for this little cloud here and just normally throw it. The flash will land somewhere up here and enable your teammate to peek B long. Make sure you only throw it if your teammate asks for it, or if you want you can just offer him the flash. Make sure he doesn't look in this direction. Now let's talk about the B side. Firstly, let's go over the tasks and positioning of the B side player. Since B side is the less contested bomb side, I mostly play here alone. Since I'm by myself in a 3-1-1 setup, I have a huge responsibility, holding the side as long as I can before my teammates can come over and assist me. That doesn't only mean staying alive, but also means spotting a B push as early as possible, so my team has enough time to rotate to help me. There are two main ways I can provide this: spotting from side or slowly pushing up B long. Let's talk about spotting from side first. As always, if you play from the back of side early round or even up heaven, you will get very little visual info very late and can't take a lot of advantageous fights. Because even if you spot someone coming down B long to be short now, you still only have one way to peek him, and that is like this. You have no other way to go. Falling back will be dangerous because he can still see you, and if you fall back like this, you can't really help at the side anymore because you will get smoked or naded off. From backside you can't hear shit and can only shoot people when they are basically already in the side. If you don't manage to make a hero play, you will very easily lose the bomb site before your team can assist you. If you want to stay near to side, you will at least have to get some info on what's going on B long. Mostly by jiggle peeking like this or jump peeking. There's multiple ways you can jump peek. You can either jump peek like this, or you can also jump peek from up here on container. This way you can also see mostly what's going on, at least on the B long stairs. From B short you can also hear people running around near door room and warehouse. Teams are often not careful in these areas when they run around here, so you can often get free info just by listening a bit from this position here. If you do spot someone on B long, most of the time do not take the fight, especially if you spotted more than one person coming towards you. Instead, give your team quick and precise info. How many did you see? Did you spot the bomb? And are they rushing or not? And call for rotates if necessary. If you notice that they might most likely rush you, use your utility to delay that rush as much as you can. I'll show you the utility later. Now the second way to provide info on B is to actually push slowly up B long. Why should you do this? If you manage to position yourself in door room or warehouse, somewhere over here or somewhere over here, you are basically serving as an early warning system for your team. Everyone who wants to push B late into the round, of course only if your teammates have mid door and square control, will have to pass you. And since you are in front of the bomb site, you will get this info even earlier. If they come towards you, you might catch a few terrorists off guard, so if they come pushing through here because they're pressured by time, you might be able to get 1 or 2 kills. But even if you die, your team will have much more time to rotate to B to deny your enemy's push. When you are set up in this more aggressive position, your team will know that they don't have to worry about B anymore for the time being, so everyone else can focus on helping towards A and holding A. This knowledge can make a huge difference and can boost your chances of winning the round significantly. You should mostly decide whether you push up B long depending on what you observed the teams were doing in the first few rounds. Do they seem to mostly pressure A every round? Or do you sometimes hear someone towards drop room or warehouse? Or is a lurker often pushing down B long towards you and you regularly spot him while jump spotting or jiggling? If you have a developed idea on how your enemies like to play B, or if they even send anyone here sometimes, you can decide to go a bit more aggressive. You can push up B long carefully and flash yourself towards warehouse. I'll show that flash in a second. If you want to be more careful, you can also call a teammate from mid or A to help you to clear this area of the map and to set you up in this more aggressive position. He can throw a support flash or double peek with you. I'll show the support flash in a minute too. As soon as you are set up in this position, your teammate can rotate back to A, or try to go for a bit more mid control, or even flank down B lane. When your opponents get to know that you sometimes push up B long, they will know that you are unpredictable and thus will feel even more pressured. But this is also why you should vary your playstyle and sometimes not push, just to avoid walking into someone they sent down here to B to counter your push. One last thing is that if you happen to have a teammate here on the B side, you can set up a lot of creative crossfires with him. You can, for example, have one player playing in this position and one player playing from doors. You can have a player playing back here and boosting you up, so you can both defend short. You can also play contact here. Playing contact basically means that one player takes the fight first and draws focus without dying immediately, and then as soon as the enemy is coming up here, focus on the player shooting at them, the other player can peek out and shoot them in the side. You can also do this in a lot of ways. You can also have one player playing somewhat like this, and also one player holding from hell. There's a lot of different ways to get creative. Now let's finally talk about the utility a B player might need to know. There's firstly a warehouse flash that you need to push solo. You can basically do this by standing where this line gets lost in the ground. So aim somewhat, if you imagine this line, you take this line and aim somewhat to the right, just normally throw the flash. This flash will land over here and will blind anyone peeking from drop room or from warehouse. A better flash for this though is a support flash from over here. This flash is better because it won't bounce off anything. This flash, throwing it for yourself, makes noise because it hits the wall and also the floor, so your enemies can react. But this flashbang, if you take the middle of the container, stand against it, then search for this corner, aim all the way up to the rope and then jump throw. It will land all the way up here, it won't bounce off anything, and it will blind anyone holding from drop room or warehouse too. So it lands up here and you can just immediately peek here if a teammate throws that flash from you for you from there, and you stand here, wait for the flash and then peek out. Now apart from the flash from mid I showed earlier, a flash that lands up here and supports you when you want to peek out B-long, there's also a flash you can throw yourself. You can just, if you spot someone on B-long, you can just aim up here somewhat. This flashbang is gonna land somewhere over here and blind anyone trying to take a fight on B-long. So you can just swing out right after that flash and shoot him. If you spot someone pushing on B-long, you always have to throw on your smoke to delay them a bit further. You can, for example, underhand the smoke over here, that will just land in the middle, and everyone behind the smoke will have it harder to push through and take effective fights. And last but not least, one of the most important pieces of utility that you might need to know as a B player is obviously a B-long nade. Just if you make contact on B-long, just throw your nade somewhere in there and try to do some damage. You can also wait a bit longer and then throw it from over here or something. Just make sure that you hit people in this narrow hallway. Now, I apologize again for making this video so long again. Let's do a quick summary of what we just discussed. A side is where most of the action happens, so you need to invest the most resources, meaning the most players, the most utility, etc. to defend it. The A players should try to create space for the team early round by pushing forward and showing the Ts that they need to invest even more resources to get the bomb site. Only if they really need to, the A players should fall back. Smoking off apps and or doors can really help with delaying any kind of push. The mid player has to play a bit more passively, since pushing out mid doors is very dangerous. By holding mid doors, he is already doing an important job for the team because he is getting important info. He shouldn't take 50-50 fights most of the time and rather stay alive to cover rotations through beacon or throw support utility towards both sides of the map. If his B player needs support, he can be the first person to get to him and help him. Having a smoke to block off mid doors when he needs to support his teammates on A and B can really help. The B player has to anchor his Bombsite and carefully spot for info. If the terrorists disregard the Bombsite, meaning they don't come here at any point of time, he can carefully and slowly push up B long and position himself to early spot any kind of B push and get some easy kills. That's it for the video, just a long flow of information. I'm sorry for not making it visually attractive or anything, but I hope you can learn something out of this and hope this helped. Peace out.